Hello, everybody. Had to create another stream because the other stream is not working for some reason. I'm not sure why. So I'll give it a minute for everyone to come back over and jump on this stream. I don't know why I do that. I do that so it'll do those reminders, and then every time I do it, won't come on when it turns the time for the live stream to come on. It won't. So I've got to figure that out with the software. I'll get with my friend Noreen on that. Is anyone in the chat? I want to do the poll again. Had the poll up on the other one. Good. I'm glad you found it, Patty. Pull up again real quick. Okay, here is the poll for the night. Feel free to answer. So the poll should be up in the live chat. Hi, Fire Pixie. How are you? Oh, hey, Robert. G'day. Uh, Love having people on from Australia. That's a long, long way away. I've got one good friend from Australia I haven't heard from in a while, so definitely want to catch up. I can't even guess what time it is in Australia yet. Lots of good mysteries down in Australia. My friend in Australia sends those to me all the time, all this crazy stuff that happens down there, too. I mean, we're definitely not alone for all the weird disappearances and lots of weird murders and stuff. So we're not the only ones. We got plenty of those going on. So I wanted to read a few comments from the last video, and one that I'm glad I heard from again, and that's from Eric Thompson, because Eric's been contacting me before, and we've talked about the missing persons people because Eric has done a lot of search and rescue. And Eric, I don't know if you're on, but Eric believes that most of the people that go missing are basically just can't be found. I mean, like fell off into a crevice and just can't be found because the wilderness is just so vast. These national parks and the wilderness and the forests are just so big you can't find them. And I agree, that's probably the by and large what's happening to most of these people. And it's just some of these cases though. I don't think it explains all of them. There's just some, like I mentioned, Terrence Woods a lot. That one just can't be explained to me. Hey Sharon, how are you? I know it's what 4 in the morning over there. So we got Australia all the way to Scotland. That's awesome. But anyway, Eric thinks that most of them are just easy to explain, and I just there's just some I can't get my mind around, like George Pinka that went missing with his church group, and they're just some David Martin we mentioned before. I just think some of these are just impossible to explain how they just fell off the face of the earth and can't be found. Some weren't in areas that were as vast as some others. So I think there's just got to be some explanation. I know Eric's kind of critical of David Politis for putting that out, and he says he's never found anybody himself. And that might be true. I think he's gotten the word out, though, at least on this national park stuff and how many people are going missing and how staggering the numbers are. I can't believe that all these are all people that just managed to get into some kind of trouble or lost on the trail or something like that. And I guess that was just hard for me. I think I think he's done some good bringing it forward. I will say that the other channel, what was that one that I mentioned yesterday, did some of the cases that David Paulides covered in two of his movies, or at least one of his movies. I think it was Missing 411, The Hunted, and they had a case on a guy that went missing in the Crazy Mountains, the ones they call the Crazies. And this guy totally picked that particular case apart and said it really wasn't a missing 411 case. This guy was definitely having mental problems going into a hunt that he went on with two other buddies. He was just started medication for it, and they found him dead the next day. His friends wound up lying because his friends were kind of hunting on some private land, and they lied to law enforcement because of that, because they didn't want to get caught for lying on that. But this guy really picks it apart. Olivia Newton-John's husband disappeared. I did hear that. Did they ever find him? I can't remember. Didn't he fall off a boat or something? Olivia Newton-John's husband? I couldn't remember. I thought something involving a boat. I thought something really weird like that. But anyway, I want to talk about a new case tonight because let me see what Fire Pixie said. There are logical explanations. We just don't know what they are. Just like we know DB Coop, just like we know DB Cooper really happened. Well, we're not sure of who he is. Well, you're not Fire Pixie, but I am. His name is Ted B. Say it together. Braden was DB Cooper, and I kind of am on the side of prove that he wasn't. And where is that? Speaking of that, this little envelope will one day prove who DB Cooper was, and the cotton swab with some saliva on it that will one day, if they can find DB Cooper cigarettes, I will bet the farm that it's going to match up with a cotton swab contained in this never been opened envelope from someone I know. This will solve DB Cooper if they find those cigarettes. And I'm not holding my breath on the cigarettes, but I don't know if they'll ever get good DNA off DB Cooper's tie. But this envelope that I'm holding is the key to DB Cooper. So hopefully they'll find some DNA soon. But on with the show. So this case is similar to the one of Jason Landry that we've been talking about, where Jason Landry went missing just before Christmas, a little over a year ago now, when Jason went missing and his car was found where it had crashed into a tree, and Jason's still not been found. They found his car keys. They found some of Jason Landry's clothes in the middle of the road, and they don't know why he would have been taking his clothes off. It wasn't cold that night. He was in Texas. He's only about an hour away from where I am right now, where he went missing in Luling, Texas. Never been found again. But here's another case that I'm going to talk about where this guy went missing, and it sounds eerily similar to Jason Landry's case. It wasn't in the same area of Texas, but it's just some of the things just seem just really similar. And I've heard other cases like this before, but when I read this, I was like, man, this just made me think of Jason Landry. And I'm going to read from the online San Angelo, Texas newspaper, because that's kind of close to where this person went missing. And it says, "What happened to Keith Roberson? Mother of missing West Texas man searches for answers." In 2018, an Odessa woman received a call that her son, 26, went missing after a wreck near Sonora. Since then, she has combed through West Texas, received ransom scams, and now fears her son may be dead. When when he didn't call by the second Christmas, I knew he's dead, said Charmin Robertson, mother of Stephen Keith Robertson, who went missing on September 5th, 2018, near Sonora. Despite this, she is determined to find him or his remains. Investigation leads to crash near Sonora. About 6 a.m., September 6, 2018, Charmin Roberson received a call from her ex-husband that their son didn't show up for work. Keith worked as an oil field flowback supervisor at a Crockett County completion site 15 miles north of Ozona. At first, she thought maybe he had a date or was visiting friends in Odessa. She called Keith's cell phone and it went straight to voicemail. Hours passed as concerns grew. She filed a missing persons report in Ozona. That afternoon, the Texas Department of Public Safety gave her an answer. At 9:39 p.m., September 5th, Keith was involved in a two-vehicle crash in Sutton County. The vehicle driven by Keith crossed the center median, went into the air, and hit a second vehicle, according to a DPS crash report. Both vehicles spun several times, and the driver of the second vehicle was injured. The report on the crash provides no indication of what happened to Robertson, and attempts by the Standard Times to reach the other driver were unsuccessful. Keith was suspected of fleeing the crash, which was the last time anyone saw him, Sharman said. "My son is not the kind of person who would have walked away," she said. "I think he made a split decision and was in shock." And then they have a little diagram of exactly how the wreck played out. On September 7th, 2018, Sharman's friends and family rushed to the crash site near mile marker 417 on I-10 near Sonora. Keith's wallet and laptop were left in the vehicle. Investigators brought in drones, a helicopter, and search teams on foot and horseback, but could not find Keith. Trace Hendricks, Clifton police chief and Republican nominee for Boss County Sheriff, drove to Sonora to help with the search. Hendricks and Sharman have known each other since they were children. I've talked to as many people as I could so far. We've come up empty, Hendricks said on September 11, 2020, days after the anniversary of Keith's disappearance. Keith and Charmin had a very tight relationship. That's her only child. It's beyond me that he could be somewhere and not communicate with her. I just don't see that as a possibility. As months passed, Charmin accessed messages and calls from his phone, which was never recovered or turned on. Nothing seemed to stand out. There's no proof of life that I can find after the wreck, Sharman said. I went to Sonora, Ozona, every convenience store in between. I felt like I should be knocking on doors. Basically, that's what I've done since. She has combed through Odessa, where she believes her son may have gone after the wreck. Over the next 2 weeks, I'd hope he would come in, Sharman said. I think that he came to Odessa and ended up with the wrong people. So that is basically what happened to Keith, and we don't, they still don't know. They searched all over the place. They cannot find this guy, and it's just strange that it happened after a wreck, just like Jason Landry did. Where could this guy be? Uh, I mean, this is flat. This isn't a national forest out here where this guy missing. It's pretty flat out in Odessa area, Midland Odessa. I know it's just flat, nothing out there. You can go miles and miles and miles without a gas station and stuff like that. I mean, if this guy got in a wreck and he was just didn't, maybe he was on drugs or alcohol. I'm sure he probably was, and he just knows he caused it, and he's in good enough shape just to start walking away. He's eventually going to show up somewhere. He's going to sober up. Somebody's going to find him. His body's going to be, his dead body could be out in miles away, found, but he just never shows up again. So similar to Jason Landry, where they find the wreck car, and this guy's just gone. And I know I heard from Tony after I did the Jason Landry show, and Tony said he believes that Jason Landry got in that wreck. And oh no, actually, Tony says he thinks Jason Landry picked up a hitchhiker, and then something kind of altercation happened in the car, causing the car to wreck. And then this guy somehow just disposes of Jason. There's some kind of processing plant or something nearby where Jason Landry went missing, and Tony says that's the first place I'd search. I'm sure they did though, Tony. I'm sure they would have checked that place. But I know, Tony, you also said that there could be some serial killer type guy that lives somewhere in the area. Which could explain what happened to Jason Landry, because I'm telling you, they searched for that guy, hundreds and hundreds of people, law enforcement. It's been over a year now. No sign of a bone, anything, nothing in water, just gone. Just like this guy we're talking about now, this Roberson guy. No trace of him anywhere after the wrecked car. And you know what? This sounds like a lot like Mara Murray, which, that's one of the most famous cases, missing persons cases around, where her car was left near some woods and she was just never found again. She had like a minor wreck or something like that, probably afraid the police were going to show up. She's drunk and she just goes off into the forest. But I mean, how far is she going to get? I mean, there's going to be hunters or something that come by eventually. Like, I know that the animals can tear the bones apart and stuff, but you would find a human skull or something from one of these people. It's really strange. I want to do something that's just on the missing people where the cars are wrecked, and there's been a few of those. I know there's a bunch of them that happen in California, Joshua Tree National Park. A lot of those are happen in Joshua Tree, I think, where the cars are wrecked and they're on the side of the road. I think one or two of those cases they eventually did find some remains after the car wreck, but the cars are wrecked, sometimes pretty substantially wrecked, and they don't know how the people could even walk away from the wreck, but there's no sign of the person inside. We know in the case of Jason Landry, there was a little bit of blood, but not a whole lot. And maybe he did pick up a hitchhiker, which seems odd though. In this day and age, pick up a hitchhiker, a guy like that, just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why a guy like Landry would do that, even if he was smoking pot or whatever. Is he really going to pick up a hitchhike? That's just not something that happens that much anymore, especially in Texas. I don't really hear about it. I mean, it could have happened, but maybe he went to go just score some weed and something turned south on him. I don't know. It looked like he did turn off his the Snapchat. I think he was using Snapchat and he just turned it off. And so similar deal with this Keith Robertson guy. Wrecks the car, pretty bad wreck. I think that they said that the guy that got in the wreck with him was unconscious, so he didn't see anything. By the way, the guy that got in the wreck with Keith was unconscious behind the steering wheel. He doesn't even probably doesn't even remember at all. So he didn't see like this blonde hair guy or something running off into the off into the night after hitting him because he was totally unconscious. But there's still no sign of this day ever turns up of any of these people. No sign of Keith, no sign of Jason Landry. What happened? I mean, what happens after these cars are crashed? Yeah, did they, maybe even if they had amnesia, they would eventually turn up. Somebody with all the missing persons posters, websites, they're going to walk into a police station somewhere and say, I'm lost, I'm confused, I don't know who I am. What's going on with these wrecked car ones? I mean, and not to find the people inside. I mean, I get it. You were nervous, you caused the wreck. Maybe you had illegal drugs in the car and you want to get away. Yeah, but fucking that Maura Murray is very creepy. I don't know about that one. I used to get into that case, but I don't know if the boyfriend's involved. Remember the boyfriend who wasn't even living where she was at the time, would come and visit her periodically, but they started looking at him, and he, was caught in all these creepy situations. One of his female coworkers said that he had trapped her in the office and tried to, make it, all these unwanted advances on her, and that he did it to another girl in the car. So it's just really the weird stuff you find out when somebody goes missing, because that may have had nothing to do with Maura Murray going missing. But since she did go missing, now we know that her boyfriend at the time is this really bad creep that may or may not have something to do with it. It's like the West Memphis 3 case. It's like you have one of the stepfathers who's really creepy and could have done that to those 3 little boys that were killed in the West Memphis case, but then he may have done it, but maybe the 3 did it. And it's just one of those you'll never know, because you have so many of these other weird, bizarre components of people that were in prison on drugs. I mean, just all kind of weird stuff. It's the same thing that I find in the Yuba County 5 case, where there's one bad guy they think may have done it, and these people are in and out of prison, and a lot of that you find out when you dig into it, but a lot of that may have nothing to do with why these people went missing. That's the crazy thing about it. But I don't know what's going on with these crash car cases like Maura Murray, like this one we're talking about now, and Jason Landry. Surely these people are going to turn up somewhere, and there'll be some kind of explanation. Maybe Tony, you're right. Maybe somebody he went hitchhiking with found him, and got in a car with him, and he held him up, and that caused, when he grabbed the steering wheel, the car got crashed. But how does that explain? He left all his belongings in the car. He left his clothes on the road, not far from where the car was crashed. Why would he do that? Wouldn't he still be wearing his clothes? I mean, it seems like he's walking away and he's peeling his clothes off of him. And this isn't like hypothermia. I mean, we're talking about Texas, it's pretty much southern Texas. So there's no hypothermia going on here except for on rare occasions. And I just don't get it. Yeah, Maury herself was weird. She did steal some cheap stuff and then got thrown out of West Point. Yeah, she got a West Point appointment. I mean, appointment to West Point uh, Military Academy. That's huge, and she just blew it. I mean, just got in there and just started doing stupid things like some little small petty theft and getting thrown out of West Point. So yeah, Maura Maury had something wrong with her. Something cognitively, going on with her. I don't know if it was drugs or alcohol, but something was weird. Do you know about Todd? I can't even pronounce that name, Pixie. Colehep. They call him the Arizona or the Amazon review killer. I know, I've never heard of that. I'm gonna look. That makes me, that you have my attention on that. I worked with him for 2 years in between the mass murders and the serial murders. Fun fact. Yeah, that's crazy. No, I never heard of him. Um, no, I mean, I guess, was he looking for people that wrote books or something, or leaving bad reviews? I don't know. Sometimes people that write books want to kill people that leave the bad reviews, but no, I haven't heard about that. I'm gonna look that up. That's interesting. I've not heard of them, but I'm gonna Google that right after I get off of this. But I want to definitely check that out. But yeah, I know Ned's done some more Murray shows, and I want to see what happened. They did a search. They found some bones in the nearby woods, uh, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, that they thought might be hers, and they never turned out to be hers. I haven't heard. They were checking, and I think it did come out and say that they were not positive to be hers. They some people believe that a guy that worked in the concrete business, or there's people that lived near that site where Maura Murray went missing, were doing some construction in their house, and they were filling in their basement with a bunch of concrete. So there was this thought that she could be buried in that concrete, but they brought in dogs into the room where the concrete was poured, and they got hits off of that. But the people that lived in that house at the time would not let them excavate that concrete. And then, as I understand, the house got sold later, and the new people wouldn't let them dig it up either. So I don't know. There's a chance she could be buried in that concrete, Maura Murray. That's just what I think. But yes, Lisa, Ted Braden, Ted Braden, Ted Braden, and I'm like Professor Horn with his book, but this could solve DB Cooper. But yeah, it's just one of those strange deals, and I'm definitely gonna look up the Amazon review killer, and I'll mention that on the next one. But yeah, I just want to dig in more of these missing persons cases where the cars are wrecked and they walk off. It's just insane. Um, so that's definitely what I'm gonna do. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you for everybody tuning in, and good comments tonight. Appreciate everybody that left comments. But gonna be doing a show tomorrow night. Some Zodiac stuff on Life After Life with Keith and his co-host. So check that out. I think it's at 8 p.m. Central, the same time I usually do mine. But it's Life After Life. I don't know if you're on, Keith. And that show should still be happening. So check out on YouTube. It's called Life After Life. And what do you think, Cooper? Could be no. I don't think Richard Floyd McCoy was DB Cooper. Um, yeah, I saw Dan Greider's show. I do not think Richard Floyd McCoy was DB Cooper. I think McCoy's interesting. I think his kids coming out saying he wasn't home that night is interesting. People don't know that the FBI really vetted out that McCoy was home on Thanksgiving Eve. I mean, there's file after file. A DB Cooper researcher named Marty Anandrade has done a lot of. I mean, he shows people file after file like, hey, the FBI is not that incompetent. They vetted out everybody that said they saw Richard McCoy on Thanksgiving Eve or the day after, and it's been pretty vetted out. And then when you read McCoy's hijacking, he left the instructions in the waiting area, and they had to be brought on the plane. And the guy's waving it here since I've been waving this all night. These are Richard Floyd McCoy's hijack instructions, and I don't know if they said it on the outside or not, but he had hijacking instructions in an envelope bigger than this. It was like a letter size envelope, and his wife typed them for him. And he left them in the waiting area, boarded the flight he was going to hijack, or did hijack, and got away with it. But someone that worked at the airline saw the manila envelope laying on a table, and they thought, oh, this must belong to one of the passengers. So they go onto the plane, and they're waving it around. Hey, did anybody leave this in the waiting area? And McCoy's in the bathroom on the airplane, putting on his makeup and putting in, like putting on his disguise. And he gets out of the bathroom, and this person that works for the airline's waving around his instructions, and he quickly claims that, yeah, those are mine. Sorry, that's not DB Cooper. DB Cooper was slick. DB Cooper asked for all his notes back, never made one mistake. So you can't tell me how Richard McCoy improved on that. Just I won't believe it. I won't. I mean, that one would stun me if Richard McCoy ever turned out to be DB Cooper, because he just made too many mistakes. Brought on his own parachute, which was kind of smart in a way, but of course his parachute deployed prematurely on that flight, and it knocked out one of the flight attendants. Literally, like boom, knocked her out. So he wound up having to use one of the ones they brought on the plane. He bragged about it to everybody that he was going to do it, to one of his close friends, or actually his best friend. He told he would have asked for $500,000. So the guy got busted 2 days later. I mean, this is not DB Cooper, folks. Maybe he knew DB Cooper. I like that kind of angle, but I don't think he was. Well, you were saying something about Josh Gates. What was that deal about Gates? We got to talk to Josh Gates about Ted Braden, by the way. Spartanburg Sheriff's Office. There's footage on YouTube. Spartanburg Sheriff's Office using a buzzsaw to free Kayla Brown from the shipping container. Wow, I got to look at that. Yeah, definitely watch the McCoy SmackDown. Yeah, Josh Gates needs to find out, and the other guy. Yes, Uncle Jim, McCoy was not DB Cooper. Neither was Robert Rackstraw. And if you believe the hardcore special forces guys in Vietnam, they only have one candidate, and you know who that is, and his name's Ted B. Braden. And then we definitely got to figure that out. But thanks for all the comments tonight. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Everybody have a good week, and definitely check out tomorrow Life After Life on YouTube, Zodiac. Thanks, everybody.